The red emergency lights cast long shadows across the command center of Sunspire Academy. Marcus Reed stood at the holographic display, his eyes tracing the movement of enemy ships surrounding the station. At 23, he was the youngest cadet ever to lead a defense team. But right now, that honor felt more like a burden. 36 ships and counting, said Ella, her fingers dancing across the control panel. The blue light of the screens reflected in her glasses as data scrolled past. They'd formed a complete blockade. Marcus nodded. The Voidborn had never assembled a fleet this large before. 6 months of skirmishes had led to this moment, the final confrontation. "What's our shield status?" he asked, keeping his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at his stomach. Rex, a broad-shouldered man with a tactical mind sharper than anyone Marcus had ever met, pulled up the defensive readouts. Primary shields at 68% and dropping. The last attack damaged the northwest generator. If they hit us there again. He didn't need to finish the sentence. The door to the command center slid open with a hiss. Talia walked in, her medical kit slung over her shoulder. Fresh blood stained her uniform, not hers, but from the cadets she'd been treating in the infirmary. 12 injured from the last bombing run, she reported. 2 critical, but stable for now. Marcus felt the weight of responsibility press down on him. These were his friends, his fellow students. For 3 years, they had trained together at Sunspire Academy, the most prestigious space military school in the human colonies. Now, they were facing extinction. "Have we heard from Earth Command?" Marcus asked, turning to Ella. She shook her head. "Communications are still jammed. The Voidborn have deployed some kind of new technology. I've never seen anything like it." The room fell silent. Without backup, without communication, they were alone. A single space station against an alien armada. The main doors opened again, and Commander Wilson entered. His uniform was perfectly pressed despite the chaos, but the lines on his face had deepened since the siege began a week ago. "Cadets," he said, his voice grave. "I just received a partial transmission from the Earth fleet before communications went dark again." Everyone straightened, hope flashing across their tired faces. "Admiral Torres and the 7th Fleet are en route," Wilson continued, "but they won't arrive for 48 hours. Rex slammed his fist on the table. "We won't last 24 without reinforcements." "We have to," Marcus said firmly. He zoomed in on the holographic display, studying the Voidborn formations. "Look at their positioning. They're not just blocking escape routes. They're preparing for a full assault." Commander Wilson nodded. "Our intelligence suggests they plan to launch their main attack at dawn." "Why wait?" Talia asked. "They could attack now and overwhelm us." Ella pointed to a strange energy reading on her screen. "I think they're charging something big. Maybe a new weapon." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. The Voidborn technology had always been advanced, but they had never shown anything capable of destroying an entire station. "Sir," he said to Commander Wilson, "permission to form a special response team." The commander studied Marcus's face. "What do you have in mind, Cadet Reed?" "If we can't outgun them, we need to outsmart them. Ella can analyze their ship designs for weaknesses. Rex knows their attack patterns better than anyone. Talia." He glanced at her. "We'll need medical support and your xenobiology expertise." Wilson was silent for a long moment. The fate of 300 cadets and staff hung in the balance. "You have 12 hours to develop a plan," he finally said. "After that, we fight with whatever we have." As the others began to work, Marcus stared out the viewport at the enemy ships. Their strange spiral designs glowed against the blackness of space. Beyond them, the sun was beginning to rise over the curve of the moon where Sunspire was built. Dawn was coming, and with it, the battle that would decide everything. The observation deck fell silent as the massive ship emerged from the darkness of space. Unlike the smaller Voidborn vessels, this one was a true monster. A dreadnought that stretched nearly half the length of Sunspire Academy itself. "That's not a warship," Rex whispered, his face pale in the glow of the approaching behemoth. "That's a planet killer." Ella frantically typed on her tablet, scanning the massive vessel. "Energy readings are off the charts. I've never seen anything like it." The dreadnought's surface was covered with strange spiral patterns that pulsed with an eerie blue light. At its front, a massive cannon began to glow with building energy. "Everyone, battle stations," Marcus shouted into his communicator. The calm determination in his voice masked the fear he felt inside. "This is not a drill. All defense teams to your positions." Cadets rushed through the corridors, some barely 18 years old and facing their first real combat. The academy had never been meant for actual warfare. It was a training facility, a place of learning. Now it had become the front line. Rex pulled up tactical displays on the main screen. "If they fire that weapon at full power, our shields won't hold." His fingers traced potential defense patterns, but each simulation ended the same way, with Sunspire in ruins. "We need options," Marcus said, turning to his team. "Anything." Ella had been quiet, her eyes fixed on an old blueprint of the academy. "There might be something," she said slowly. "When I was searching through the archives last month for my history project, I found references to defensive systems built into the original structure. The academy is over 200 years old," Talia pointed out. "Any systems from then would be useless against this." "Not necessarily," Ella countered, excitement growing in her voice. "Sunspire wasn't originally built by humans. We just repurposed it. These systems predate human colonization." Marcus leaned over her shoulder, studying the ancient schematics. "Where are the control nodes?" "That's the problem." Ella pointed to the lower levels. "Sub-basement 12. It's been sealed off for decades." Outside, the dreadnought moved into position. Smaller Voidborn ships formed a protective ring around it as the weapon continued to charge. "How long until that cannon is ready to fire?" Marcus asked. Rex checked his readings. 2 hours, maybe less. Marcus made his decision. "Ella, take a team to find those old defense systems. Rex, I need you to analyze every inch of that dreadnought. Find me a weakness." "What about you?" Talia asked. Marcus's eyes narrowed as he stared at the enemy flagship. "I'm going to take the fight to them. We can't just sit here and wait to be destroyed." "That's suicide," Rex protested. "Their fleet would blast any shuttle to pieces before you got close." "Not if we use the prototype," Marcus replied. The room fell silent. Everyone knew what he meant. The experimental stealth ship in Hangar 7, designed to be invisible to most scanning systems. It had never been fully tested. "I'll need a small team. Volunteers only," Marcus said. Before anyone could respond, the Academy's alarms blared. On the screens, they watched as the first wave of Voidborn fighters launched from their carriers. "They're starting their attack early," Rex said grimly. The meeting room doors slid open, and Commander Wilson entered with Academy President Wren at his side. The normally composed president looked shaken. "Your plan, Cadet Reed?" Wilson asked without preamble. Marcus explained quickly. Ella's discovery, the stealth ship, the desperate gamble. President Wren shook her head. "It's too dangerous. We should focus on evacuation." "There's nowhere to evacuate to," Marcus replied firmly. "The Voidborn have us surrounded. This is our only chance." A massive explosion rocked the station as the first enemy shots hit the outer shields. Warning lights flashed across the command consoles. President Wren looked at the determined faces around her and finally nodded. "Make it happen, Cadet Reed. The fate of Sunspire is in your hands." As the team dispersed to their missions, Marcus took one last look at the dreadnought through the viewport. The enemy had brought their ultimate weapon. It was time for Sunspire to reveal its secrets. The prototype stealth ship hummed softly as Marcus guided it away from Hangar 7. The vessel was barely larger than a shuttle, its sleek black hull absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Behind him, Rex monitored the tactical systems while Talia checked their limited medical supplies. Stealth systems active, Marcus whispered, though there was no need for quiet in space. Old habits from training died hard. Ella, do you copy? Ella's voice crackled through the comm system. I copy. I'm heading to sub-basement 12 now with a team. Be careful out there. Always am, Marcus replied, though his hands tightened on the controls as the ship slipped out of Sunspire's protective shield bubble. The void of space opened before them, filled with enemy ships. The void-borne vessels moved in perfect formation, their spiral designs making them look more like strange sea creatures than spacecraft. At the center of the formation loomed the massive dreadnought, its cannon now glowing brighter than before. Proximity alert, Rex said, his voice tense. Fighter squadron passing 200 meters to our starboard. They held their breath as the enemy fighters passed by. The stealth technology seemed to be working. For now, heading directly for the dreadnought, Marcus announced, adjusting their course. Entry point. Rex studied the schematics they'd hastily downloaded before departure. There's what looks like a maintenance bay on the lower port side. It's minimally guarded according to thermal readings. The journey across open space felt endless. With each passing minute, the dreadnought grew larger in their view screen until it filled their entire field of vision. Up close, the ship was even more terrifying, its surface covered with strange symbols that seemed to shift and move as if alive. I don't like this, Talia said, checking her medical scanner. I'm picking up thousands of life signs, but they're strange, not matching standard void-borne patterns. Marcus frowned. Different species. No, she replied, puzzled. More like the same species but altered somehow. A sudden alert flashed on their console. They'd been spotted. Evasive maneuvers, Rex shouted. Marcus yanked the controls, sending the ship into a spinning dive just as energy blasts streaked past them. The stealth system flickered as they took a glancing hit to the rear shields. We need to dock now, or we're dead, Marcus said through gritted teeth. He pushed the engines to maximum, aiming for the maintenance bay Rex had identified. The ship shuddered as they crashed through the atmospheric barrier. Alarms blared as they skidded across the deck of the alien hangar, coming to rest against a strange crystalline structure. Everyone okay? Marcus asked, unbuckling his harness. Rex nodded, already pulling out his weapon. Talia gave a thumbs up as she grabbed her medical kit. Stealth suits on, Marcus ordered, activating the personal cloaking device on his uniform. The technology would hide them from visual detection, but not from advanced scanners. They stepped out into the alien ship, weapons ready. The interior was nothing like they'd expected. Instead of metal and machinery, the walls seemed almost organic, pulsing with the same blue energy they'd seen from outside. This way, Rex whispered, following his scanner toward the ship's core. They moved silently through curved corridors, occasionally flattening themselves against walls as void-borne soldiers passed. The aliens were tall, with bluish skin and 4 arms, their eyes glowing with the same eerie light as their ship. As they turned a corner, they came face to face with a massive door covered in spiral patterns. Before they could retreat, the door slid open. Standing before them was a figure unlike any void-borne they had ever seen. Nearly 7 feet tall, with armor that seemed fused to his body, his face was hidden behind a mask that reflected their own shocked expressions back at them. I am Lord Dres, the figure said in perfect English, making them freeze in shock. And I have been expecting you, humans. Their stealth suits flickered and failed, leaving them exposed in enemy territory. How? Marcus asked, raising his weapon. Your technology is quaint, Lord Dres replied. But it cannot hide you from those who have mastered the void between stars. Behind the alien commander, dozens of soldiers appeared, weapons trained on the small human team. You wish to know why we attack your academy? Lord Dres continued. Follow me, and I will show you the truth your leaders have hidden from you for centuries. Marcus and his team exchanged glances. They had come for information, but not like this. With no choice, They followed the Voidborn commander deeper into the heart of the enemy flagship. President Wren stood in Sunspire's control center, watching as red warning lights flashed across every screen. The Academy's shields were failing sector by sector, and the Voidborn attack had intensified since Marcus and his team departed for the Dreadnought. "Status report," she demanded, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. A young cadet wiped sweat from his brow as he checked the readings. "Main shields at 31% and falling. We've lost the entire western quadrant. Enemy boarding parties detected in levels 5 through 8. Wren's jaw tightened. She had been elected student council president just 3 months ago. Now she was coordinating a battle for survival. "Divert emergency power to the remaining shield generators," she ordered, "and seal off all access points between levels 4 and 9. In the science lab below, Ella and her team had finally reached sub-basement 12. The ancient doors, sealed for decades, had required both technical skill and brute force to open. Dust filled the air as they stepped into a chamber unlike anything they had seen before. "This isn't human technology," whispered one of her team members, shining a light on the strange console at the center of the room. Ella approached it cautiously. The surface was covered with spiral patterns similar to those on the Voidborn ships, but somehow different. Older. "The historical records were right," she said, brushing dust from the control panel. "Sunspire wasn't built by humans. We just found it and moved in." The entire station shook as another blast hit the weakening shields. Loose debris fell from the ceiling. "Whatever you're going to do it fast," came Commander Wilson's voice through her communicator. "We're losing ground on all fronts." Ella studied the ancient controls. "I need time to figure this out. It's not responding to any known interface methods." Back in the upper levels, Commander Wilson led a group of senior cadets in a desperate defense of the main hall. The Voidborn had breached the outer security doors and were pushing inward with relentless determination. "Hold the line," Wilson shouted, firing his pulse rifle at the advancing aliens. The cadets beside him, some barely 18 years old, fought with courage that made his chest swell with pride despite the dire situation. The Voidborn attackers were different from those they had faced before. These moved with strange, synchronized precision, their forearms wielding weapons with deadly accuracy. Their glowing eyes showed no fear, no hesitation. A blast struck near Wilson, sending him crashing into a wall. Pain shot through his shoulder, but he forced himself back to his feet. "Fall back to position B," he ordered. "Defensive formation." The cadets retreated in orderly fashion, just as they had drilled countless times, though they had never expected to use those drills in actual combat. 3 levels down, a group of first-year cadets found themselves trapped between sealed security doors and advancing enemy forces. Too young for combat training, they had been hiding in the dormitories when the Voidborn broke through nearby. "What do we do?" a young girl asked, her voice trembling. The oldest among them, a boy named Tom who had just turned 16, looked around at the frightened faces. None of them would survive a direct confrontation. "The maintenance shafts," he said suddenly. "We can use them to get behind the aliens and reach the armory on level 3. It was a desperate plan, but it was their only chance. One by one, the young cadets climbed into the narrow shafts that ran between the walls of Sunspire. In the control center, President Wren received the worst news yet. "They're targeting the core," her tactical officer reported. "If they reach it, they could overload the entire station's power systems." "Where is Commander Wilson?" she demanded. The communications officer's face fell. "His team is pinned down in Sector 7. Heavy casualties reported." Wren made her decision. "I'll lead the core defense team myself." Her advisors protested, but she silenced them with a raised hand. "This is our home, our academy. I will not hide while others fight for it." In sub-basement 12, Ella had a breakthrough. The ancient console had begun to glow faintly in response to a sequence she had tried. "I think I've got something," she called to her team. The patterns on the console shifted, matching themselves to her hand patterns. A deep rumble shook the entire academy, but this time it came from within. Ancient machinery, dormant for centuries, began to awaken throughout Sunspire's forgotten lower levels. Ella to control, she called into her communicator. Whatever happens next, don't be alarmed. I think Sunspire is waking up. As Commander Wilson made his last stand to protect the retreating cadets, as President Wren led her team toward the core, as young Tom and the first years crawled through dark maintenance tunnels, the academy itself began to change. The battle for Sunspire had entered a new phase. Lord Dres led Marcus and his team through the twisting corridors of the massive dreadnought. The walls pulsed with blue energy that seemed almost alive, responding to the Voidborn commander's presence as they walked. Your academy, Lord Dres said without turning, sits upon technology you do not understand. Marcus kept his hand near his weapon. Why attack us now, after 200 years of peace? Peace. The alien commander made a sound that might have been laughter. There was never peace, only preparation. They entered a vast chamber at the heart of the ship. The ceiling rose hundreds of feet above them, with strange crystalline structures hanging like frozen lightning bolts. In the center stood a circular platform surrounded by what appeared to be control stations, each manned by Voidborn operators. Behold, Lord Dres gestured toward a massive holographic display showing a dying planet. Its surface was cracked with glowing red fissures, entire continents breaking apart. Our homeworld. Rex studied the image, his tactical mind processing what he saw. Your planet is experiencing some kind of seismic catastrophe. Not natural, Lord Dres replied. The core is destabilizing because of what was taken from it. He turned his masked face toward Marcus. Taken by your ancestors and hidden within Sunspire Academy. Talia stepped forward, her medical scanner still active. She had been taking readings since they arrived, and something troubled her. Your biology, she said, looking at the Voidborn around them. It's changing. These readings don't match any previous data on your species. Lord Dres removed his mask with a slow, deliberate motion. His face beneath was gaunt, with veins of blue energy pulsing beneath translucent skin. His eyes had no pupils, just swirling pools of the same blue light that filled the ship. We adapt to survive, he said simply. While Dres was focused on Talia, Rex quietly moved toward one of the abandoned control stations. His fingers brushed the surface, trying to understand the alien technology. What exactly are you looking for at Sunspire? Marcus asked, keeping Dres's attention. A heart of void, the commander replied. A power source created by our ancient ones. Your explorers found our colony ship crashed on that moon centuries ago. They took the heart, studied it, built your academy around it. Without it, our world dies. Marcus felt doubt creeping in. Could the Voidborn be telling the truth? Was this entire war just an attempt to reclaim something stolen? A soft chime from Talia's scanner drew his attention. She had moved closer to one of the other Voidborn operators and was staring at her readings with horror. Marcus, she whispered, they're not what they appear. There's something inside them. Some kind of parasite. Before Lord Dres could react, Talia's mind was suddenly flooded with alien thoughts. A presence reached out to her, desperate and afraid. Help us, asterisk. A voice spoke directly into her mind. Am Kel. What you see is not the true Voidborn. We are hosts now. Controlled, asterisk. Talia stumbled back, overwhelmed by the unexpected psychic contact. At the same moment, Rex found what he was looking for. A schematic of the Dreadnought's weapon systems appeared on his console. The massive cannon wasn't designed to destroy Sunspire. It was meant to extract something from deep within it. Marcus, Rex called. They're not trying to destroy the academy. There. A blast of energy struck Rex, sending him flying across the chamber. Lord Dres stood with his arm extended, blue energy crackling around his hand. Enough, he said, his voice suddenly different, deeper, resonating with multiple tones. The drift requires the heart. Your understanding is irrelevant. The other Voidborn in the room suddenly turned toward them, moving with the same unnatural synchronization they had witnessed during the Academy attack. The parasites, Talia gasped, understanding now. They're controlling all of them. Marcus helped Rex to his feet, noting with relief that his friend was only stunned, not seriously injured. "What is the drift?" he demanded. Lord Drez's face contorted into an unnatural smile. "We are the future. Your academy holds what we need to spread beyond this pitiful system." From somewhere deep in the ship, alarms began to sound. The dreadnought shuddered slightly. "Your academy has awakened its defenses," Lord Drez observed. "Too late. The extraction cannon is ready." As Marcus prepared to fight, he felt something cold press against his back. He turned to find one of their own team, Lieutenant Parker, pointing a weapon at him. "I'm sorry," Parker said, eyes glowing with the same blue light as the Voidborn. "The drift showed me the truth weeks ago." The betrayal hit harder than any physical blow. As Talia continued her silent communication with Kel, as Rex tried to reach the weapons console again, Marcus faced the terrible reality. They were trapped on an enemy ship, betrayed from within, while Sunspire fought for its very survival. Deep within Sunspire Academy, Ella watched in awe as the ancient console fully activated. The spiral patterns now glowed with golden light, different from the blue energy of the Voidborn ships. The entire chamber hummed with power that had lain dormant for centuries. "It's not a defense system," she whispered, understanding dawning as symbols flowed across the display. "It's a communication array. And something more." The console projected a holographic image showing two species working together, the ancient Voidborn and another race that appeared strikingly similar to humans. Between them floated a crystal structure identical to what they now called the Academy Core. "They were allies," one of her team members said in disbelief. Ella's fingers worked rapidly over the controls as knowledge seemed to flow directly into her mind. "The heart of Void wasn't stolen. It was entrusted to us for safekeeping." Above them, President Wren led her small team through corridors filled with the sounds of battle. The Voidborn had pushed deeper into the Academy than anyone had thought possible. "The core chamber is just ahead," she called out. "Weapon ready. We can't let them reach it." They rounded the corner to find a group of Voidborn soldiers cutting through the final security door. Wren didn't hesitate. She fired first, taking down two aliens before they could react. "For Sunspire," she shouted, and her team echoed the cry as they charged forward. The battle was fierce but brief. The student president fought with unexpected skill, her tactical training proving more than theoretical. When the last Voidborn fell, she pressed her hand against the security panel, and the core chamber door slid open. "Secure the perimeter," she ordered, stepping inside. The Academy core pulsed with energy, its crystal structure now glowing with the same golden light as the ancient console in the basement. Wren's communicator crackled to life. "President Wren," Ella's voice came through. "Don't touch the core. I've activated the original systems. It's not just a power source. It's a weapon against the parasites controlling the Voidborn." Aboard the dreadnought, Marcus stared down the barrel of Parker's weapon. The betrayal stung, but his mind was already calculating options. "The drift showed you the truth?" he asked, buying time. "What truth is that?" "Power," Parker replied, his eyes unnaturally bright. "The drift offers evolution beyond what humans could ever achieve." As Parker spoke, Marcus noticed Rex slowly reaching for a small device on his belt, an EMP grenade designed to temporarily disable electronic systems. "Now," Marcus shouted, dropping to the floor as Rex activated the grenade. The pulse swept through the chamber, disrupting the blue energy that flowed through the ship. The Voidborn, including Lord Drez, staggered as if in pain. Parker's weapon fell from suddenly limp fingers. Talia, her mind still linked with Kel's, gasped as understanding flooded her. The parasites. They're vulnerable to certain energy frequencies. Lord Dres recovered first, his face contorted with rage. You cannot stop what has already begun. He lunged at Marcus with inhuman speed, but Marcus was ready. Years of combat training took over as he ducked under the attack and landed a solid blow to the alien's midsection. "Rex," he called out, "the weapon systems." Rex sprinted toward the main control platform, dodging Voidborn who were still recovering from the EMP. His tactical analysis had shown a fatal flaw in the Dreadnought's design. The extraction cannon drew power from the entire ship, including life support. "If I overload the cannon," he muttered as his fingers flew across the alien controls, "the feedback should disable the whole ship." Talia had reached Parker, who lay unconscious on the floor. Her scanner showed the parasite's hold weakening. "Marcus," she called, "Kel says these parasites, the Drift, they've been controlling the Voidborn for generations. The golden energy from Sunspire can free them." On her scanner, she could see the Academy core now pulsing with increasing power. Somehow, Ella had activated its true purpose. Lord Dres had recovered and now fought Marcus with all 4 arms, each holding a different weapon. Despite his training, Marcus was being driven back. "You fight well, human," Dres hissed, "but the Drift has existed for millennia. We cannot be stopped by one academy." "We don't need to stop you alone," Marcus replied, blocking a strike that would have taken his head. "We just need to hold you off until our allies arrive." Rex had reached the main controls but found himself surrounded by Voidborn soldiers. With no way to reach the cannon controls, he made a split-second decision. Instead of trying to overload the cannon, he accessed the ship's self-destruct sequence. "System activated," announced an alien voice throughout the ship. "Core meltdown in 5 minutes." "Rex," Marcus shouted, "what have you done?" "Save the Academy," Rex replied grimly. "But I don't think we're getting out of here." The ship's alarms blared as evacuation procedures began. The Voidborn soldiers abandoned their posts, running for escape pods. Only Lord Dres remained, still locked in combat with Marcus. "If we die," the Voidborn commander snarled, "your Academy dies with us." Back at Sunspire, the Academy core now burned like a miniature sun, its golden light spreading throughout the station. The Voidborn invaders collapsed as the parasites controlling them were forced out by the energy. President Wren watched in amazement as Ella's voice came through her communicator. "The weapon is fully charged. The heart of Void is awakening." The Dreadnought's self-destruct countdown echoed through the massive ship as Marcus faced Lord Dres in final combat. With each passing second, the vessel shuddered more violently around them. 4 minutes to core meltdown, the alien voice announced. Rex worked frantically at the control console, trying to find any way to escape. "The emergency teleportation system is offline," he called out. "We're trapped." Talia knelt beside Parker's unconscious form, her mind still connected to Kel through their strange psychic link. Through Kel's consciousness, she could see the true history of the Voidborn, a peaceful species corrupted by the parasitic Drift centuries ago. "Marcus," she called out, "Kel says there's another way. The heart of Void. It can reach us." Lord Dres laughed, a hollow sound filled with the voices of countless parasites. "The heart is beyond your reach, human. Even now, my remaining ships continue the assault on your precious Academy." A devastating blow sent Marcus crashing into a control panel. Blood trickled from a cut above his eye as he struggled to rise. Despite his training, he was no match for the enhanced strength of the parasite-controlled commander. "Even if you kill me," Marcus gasped, "you've lost. The self-destruct can't be stopped now." At Sunspire Academy, the battle had turned. The golden energy from the activated Heart of Void spread through every level, driving out the parasitic drift from the invading Voidborn. Confused aliens found themselves free of control for the first time in generations, dropping their weapons as they realized what they had been forced to do. President Wren stood in the core chamber, bathed in golden light as Ella's voice came through her communicator. The heart is fully active, Ella reported from sub-basement 12. It's scanning for something. Or someone. The core pulsed suddenly, projecting a three-dimensional map of nearby space. The dreadnought appeared as a red point of light, now surrounded by a golden aura. It's found them, Wren whispered. Marcus and his team. Ella studied the ancient controls, understanding flowing into her mind. The heart was never just a power source or weapon. It's a bridge, a way to connect across space. Can it save them? Wren demanded. I think so, Ella replied, her fingers dancing across the console. But I need help focusing its energy. Throughout Sunspire, the announcement system activated. All cadets, focus your thoughts on our team aboard the enemy ship. The heart responds to collective consciousness. Help bring them home. In classrooms, dormitories, even in the midst of battle, cadets closed their eyes, focusing their thoughts on Marcus, Rex, and Talia. Aboard the dreadnought, the countdown reached 2 minutes. Lord Drez had pinned Marcus to the floor, 4 hands squeezing the life from him. Your academy will be next, the commander hissed. The drift will consume all. Suddenly, golden light began to fill the chamber. It poured from the walls, the ceiling, even from the floor beneath them. Lord Drez screamed as the light touched him, the parasites within his body burning away. What is happening? Rex shouted above the sound of the ship breaking apart. Talia felt Kel's joy through their mental connection. It's the heart. Sunspire is reaching out to us. The golden light intensified until it was all they could see. Marcus felt weightless, as if his body was dissolving into the light itself. The last thing he heard was the final countdown. 1 minute to core meltdown, before everything went white. In the space surrounding Sunspire Academy, a brilliant flash lit up the darkness as the Voidborn dreadnought exploded. The remaining enemy ships, now freed from parasitic control, had ceased their attack. Many were retreating, while others simply drifted, their crews trying to comprehend their newfound freedom. In the Academy core chamber, the golden light condensed into a perfect sphere, then expanded outward in a flash. When the light faded, Marcus, Rex, and Talia stood there, along with Parker and several confused-looking Voidborn, including one that Talia immediately recognized. Kel, she said, stepping forward to greet the alien who had helped save them all. From the Academy's observation deck, students and faculty watched as Earth reinforcements finally arrived. Battleships dropping out of hyperspace with weapons ready, but there was no need for them now. President Wren stood before the communications array, broadcasting a message to both the human fleet and the remaining Voidborn ships. This is Sunspire Academy. The battle is over. We invite representatives of both fleets to meet for peace talks. Today we discovered we were never meant to be enemies. 2 weeks later, Marcus stood in the newly reopened sub-basement 12, now transformed into a museum displaying the true history of Sunspire and the Voidborn. Visitors, both human and alien, studied the ancient records showing how the two species had once worked together before the drift's corruption. Hard to believe we almost destroyed each other over a misunderstanding, Rex said, joining him. Ella nodded. The heart was never meant to be a weapon. It was a gift, a way to maintain the alliance across vast distances. Talia entered with Kel, the first Voidborn instructor at the Academy. Their psychic link had proven invaluable in establishing communication between the species. The first Voidborn students arrive tomorrow, Talia announced. Sunspire will truly be an interspecies academy now. Marcus smiled as he watched cadets of both species studying the displays together. The battle had nearly destroyed them all, but from that destruction, something new had emerged. In the distance, through the observation windows, a small fleet of ships patrolled the space around Sunspire, human and Voidborn vessels flying side by side. They had a new enemy now, the remaining drift parasites that had escaped on the retreating ships. But that would be a battle for another day. For now, Sunspire Academy stood tall, a beacon of hope and cooperation among the stars.